Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Watch News Weekly. We got a lot of exciting news in the industry today, some new releases, some dollar amounts. But before I go on, I actually want to try something different. As you're watching this video, I always ask to like, comment, share, subscribe at the end of the video. Can we do that now? Can you guys hit that like button? Can you hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber? And let's move on with the episode. The first topic is going to be $30 million watches. At least that's the big announcement. But in reality, what we're talking about is we're talking about watches that are being put inside cars, starting with the AP Rolex Concept split-second chronograph GMT. That's going to cost you $30 million because as a bonus, you'll get a Rolls-Royce La Rose Noir droptail. So rose and black, Rose Noir.
Yeah, Rose Noir. Yeah.
Rose Noir.
Sounds like a fancy champagne or like a rose.
Doesn't it? Yeah, I swear to God it does. Which is a piece unique on its own if you think about it. So the Concept split-second chronograph GMT, advanced materials, just like the Rolls-Royce droptail. Emblematic of the line. It's massive. It's 43 by 17.4 thick case. It's made of titanium. Basically, this is the Concept GMT, but now it became a split second.
In a piece unique.
In a piece unique, but it's also a split second chronograph.
Yeah.
So you had the Concept GMT made out of titanium.
Yeah.
I believe that was the third in the lineup of the Royal Oak Concept line. 70-hour power reserve, open work, self-winding 4407 caliber. And again, it's the split-second chronograph that makes it different from any other Concept that's out there. Custom red counters, red inner bezel, again, stuff to match the car. Well, first of all, the watches are knockout unbiased. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this whole idea of putting in something so high-end inside a car?
You know what? It's AP going back to its roots, right? It's bespoke watchmaking, quite literally, right? So AP has shied away from piece uniques over the last, let's say, 10 years, really keeping it to probably their most exclusive clients, if even offering that at all. So having now this option or this ability to create bespoke timepieces is really AP going back to the roots, and I'm all for it.
How big of a fan do you have to be to drop $30 million on a car?
Yeah,
to get the watch.
Yeah. I think the watch.
If somebody brought that watch, so you're one of the buyers. Somebody brought that watch to you today and say, "Hey, what are you a buyer at? What number do you put on it?"
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's what anyone is willing to pay, right? A watch like this, listen, a Concept is not maybe the most popular watch in the line
because of its size,
but because it's a piece unique, and obviously the story of it being attached to this car, it's got to be a hefty premium. You got to pay for this.
Next question for you: who benefits more from this collab?
AP for sure. I think AP for sure because Rolls-Royce has more visibility, right? The car community, I would say, is probably as big, if not bigger, than the watch community.
Well, the car community is bigger than the watch community. I think hands down, no doubt about it.
Right. So I think the visibility of Rolls-Royce with AP, I think it certainly helps, and it definitely helps the second brand that they.
But it's so cool. Like you want to come out of your car. Imagine you forget that watch in there. Somebody goes in there with a crowbar. You left your watch in the car.
Well, this isn't the first time we've seen this, right? We've seen like IWC has the
but it's not like
clocks.
A watch integrated. This is the clocks. IWC. My Mercedes has an IWC clock in it. Well, actually, the previous version did. The newer one is all digital. Another person. Let's move to the next topic while we're at it. Another company that decided to do the same thing is Vacheron, and this is, I know, one of your favorite brands. So the I'll let you say that. Les Cabinotier. Well, it's even hard for me to say. Because you can't say, how do you expect me to say it?
I've been hanging around Americans too often.
All right, so Rolls-Royce Amethyst droptail, okay, again, second in the series to complete the bespoke coach-built cars, costing around that $30 million mark. Let's go to the Les Cab because I just can't. Again, another piece unique watch. And it's the first watch made by Vacheron for an automobile since 1928.
Right.
So that's kind of a big deal. It's been 100 years since Vacheron made a timekeeping device for a vehicle, and I don't know what was the one back in 1928, but I'm assuming it was some type of dashboard clock.
Yeah, or some kind of. I mean, they made, for example, the Historiques 1921 was a driver's watch.
But that was a driver's watch.
Yeah, but inside of an actual car, I don't even know what it would look like because I don't even know the story of this. That's pretty spectacular. Not to mention the watch here. I think it's a retrograde
First of all, it's a spherical tourbillon.
Yeah,
Let's start there.
Crazy. The three-dimensionality of it. I mean, I just got to see the pictures of it. The color also is absolutely beautiful. And I mean, listen, again, it goes back to that idea of making bespoke timepieces, which I think I'm all for just because this is what these watch brands are about, right? They're the highest-end watches creating one-of-a-kind masterpieces now, specifically for something
unlike
like
AP, this is more of a pocket watch.
It's a pocket watch, yeah.
It's more of a pocket watch style, so this isn't, something you can take with you, but not something that's necessarily wearable. So I think that watch will continue staying inside that car, not to be pulled out, if you ask me. I think it's got a nice modern look to it. I love the purple hues, both from the front and the back. and it does obviously. It does really scream car more than, let's say, that of AP.
What I like also is it gives a lot more visibility to, I think, one of the most undervalued markets, which is pocket watches. Like, I would love to own just, I don't know, out of principle, like a pocket watch, and I look at the prices of like even Patek, Vacheron, you can
They're a joke.
They're so cheap. Like, it just brings really good visibility to, I think, a really undervalued market.
So I think one of the things that, and I talked about this before, when we go into certain markets, we can say, hey, it's the market of high horology, it's the market of material use, it's the market of size. There's one predominant thing that dictates the market. Right now, the market that we're in is the hype market, and I think that's what really did the pocket watch market in, because you can't flex a pocket watch.
Yeah,
in fact, most people will call you a dork if you go pull out.
They're going to take it out of your Lululemon joggers and show on your pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying, and I can see the appeal in that. So in this particular case, so in the case of Audemars and Rolls-Royce versus Vacheron and Rolls-Royce, I think in terms of visibility, the better duo in terms of visibility would probably still be AP and Rolls-Royce, and then Vacheron and Rolls-Royce. So.
Yeah, just because AP is wearable, right, as opposed to the pocket watch.
No, I'm just talking about strictly about popularity. Like, AP is up there in terms of hype popularity, more so than Vacheron, although in the hype market, the overseas lines didn't bring him back into the limelight.
Yeah.
This is a good way to stay in the limelight. Obviously, wonderful piece of horology. Yeah. Next topic, we're talking about Hodinkee cutting jobs. They cut a fifth of jobs, so 20%. Why can't you just say 20%?
Yeah.
They cut 20% of jobs. So according to some media outlets, Rolex price slumps prompt Hodinkee to cut headcount across media and pre-owned watch operations. However, Hodinkee itself has confirmed it's reducing staff in operations technology and photography as part of the integration of Crown and Caliber without confirming numbers. Now, Hodinkee, which also counts musician John Mayer and Super Bowl winning quarterback Tom Brady as investors, acquired watch dealer Crown and Caliber in 2021 during a frenzy surge in prices for used luxury timepieces. Now, the loss-making business has weighed on Hodinkee, which was profitable before the deal, said the people who spoke in the condition of anonymity. The purchase of Crown and Caliber, which sells used Rolex and other top brands, boosted Hodinkee's annual revenue above $100 million. I'm going to call bullshit on some of this. You okay with me? You okay with me saying that?
Yeah,
because so now the blame is, well, according to Hodinkee, I can see when you purchase a company that's, let's say we go out and buy another online, we bought Crown and Caliber. Yes, there would be cuts because a lot of the work that comes across a company hours, or any other business really, what tends to happen when you swallow up another company is you tend to cut off the back office because you're able to integrate your existing back office, your existing processes to make it more efficient, et cetera, right? So I can see Hodinkee saying that, hey, we have our own accountants, we have our own whatever, right? Yeah. I can see that happen, and this is pretty obvious answer from the company itself. Where in reality, I feel that this is a situation where you have a company that has no business selling watches besides a company that sells watches. I did an interview earlier this morning with Watch Pro magazine, and we actually discussed this. And I told them, I said, watch for it on Watch News Weekly. The biggest issues when you take a company that seemingly in the same realm, Hodinkee and Crown and Caliber, and they go out there and buy a Caliber, they're probably looking at, I don't know what Hodinkee's revenue was up until then.
Sure. Yeah, privately owned company.
Let's cut it in half. Yeah. Let's say Hodinkee was $50 million and they bought Crown and Caliber, they did another $50 million, which probably is a little less and whatever, irrelevant, right? Yeah. Let's just call it that. What they were buying is they were buying revenue, right? Because Hodinkee went into the business of selling watches, and they wanted to bump that up because they really had no way, shape, or form to go out there and buy things and so on and so forth.
Yeah, revenue, also expertise, human capital, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem with some of these companies, they go out there and try to acquire these brands where they don't really have enough experience and they're acquiring it for the revenue. The biggest issue I see is that they're chasing the revenue and the numbers rather than chasing operations.
I think that's partly right, Roman, but I think it's even simpler than that. I think Hodinkee was growing at such a rapid rate that they were hiring people, and don't forget the watch market was absolute frenzy, right? They probably couldn't even keep up with what was going on.
2021 was a great time to buy a company, or to sell a company, I should say.
Right, to sell a company, and they were growing at such a rapid rate that I think that we're going to see this probably on a greater scale on the macroeconomic level with other companies. Listen, they were just growing so quick that they needed to hire more people, and they're realizing times just aren't the same. Let's scale back a little bit. We're spending too much here, X, Y, and Z. We don't need this much staff to do all of that. I think part of it was the integration process. But yeah, I think this is just Hodinkee realizing, like, listen, we grew too fast. We probably jumped the shark. We hired too many people, and now we just have to scale back.
And the market doesn't always do this.
Yeah, the market isn't what it was.
I'm just going to quickly go back to the point I was making, and that is, if you're a company out there that's trying to, for example, if somebody came over and tried to buy me, yes, I would show my financial statements, I would show my EBITDA, and it would probably be evaluated based on EBITDA along other things that would increase the X value, right? With that said, the number one sales, I won't say pitch for me, but the number one thing that I would try to see the potential buyer look at is, yes, the EBITDA is there, the finances are there, the revenue is there, right? But I would show my operations. I would sell my company based on the operations that we have here. The fact that there are no bottlenecks, the fact that we have a system in place where we can plug in pretty much anyone to do a job, a given task within the company. And a lot of these acquisitions, and I'm not going to mention a lot of names, there were other companies that bought other internet companies, et cetera, is they didn't bother looking into just that. They just assumed, okay, these guys are doing X amount of millions, and therefore things will be fine. But when it get down to and realize that, oh my God, this is a bit of a mess operationally, you should be, if I'm out there acquiring a company, the first thing I'm looking at is, I am going to look at the numbers, I am going to look at EBITDA, but I'm going to look at operation and say, hey, if person X leaves tomorrow, where does that leave me? And do I myself have the staff or the process in place to fill in that gap? Yeah,
no doubt about it. I mean, if you're not doing that, you're just not doing DD, right? Due diligence on the purchase. So it just doesn't make sense.
But in a hot market, back in 2021, as people, as you had 10 people lined up for a watch, it's like, hey, here's the watch, here's the price, take it or leave it. I feel like that was the case in purchasing companies. Let's move on to the next topic. Now, this is something that you actually brought to my attention because I know you read these articles religiously. Switch watch experts soft landing. Switch watch experts grew 4.2% in August versus a minus 0.9% contraction in July and a 14.8% increase in June. Today's data indicates that Swiss watch expert growth is normalizing in the second half of the year. Soft landing scenario playing out. Further, when it comes to watch exports, the U.S. is holding up well over the summer, while Greater China was disappointing overall. Watch exports to the United States plus 13.5%, strong recovery after a relatively soft July, up 5%, as did those to Hong Kong plus 30%. The United Kingdom plus 21%, France 14%. In contrast to mainland China, minus 27%. They registered a sharp decline for the second consecutive month. As per FHS, this downturn in mainland was due to a timid recovery of the market in a difficult economical climate, as well as an unfavorable base effect triggered by revenge buying as seen last summer following Shanghai's long lockdown. Now, this article came from
a trusted source. Shout out to you. You know who you are, which I cannot reveal. But yeah, no. I thought this was a really interesting article because obviously a lot's being made of the watch market. Things are a little bit all over the place. Stabilization in price, is it still strong? I see this is showing a lot of strength other than mainland China, which is going through kind of a huge real estate crisis, so that's not really shocking. The economic environment there is not great, but overall it's showing a very, very strong market, especially as you see the resurgence of the United States, Europe also, and not to mention Hong Kong, which is probably the most important or one of the most important watch markets in the entire world.
It's funny that, when I look at these numbers, right, and I look at these statistics, I tend to compare it to our numbers, right? Yeah. So we had, I would say, a normal July.
Sure.
Actually, a better than normal July. I would say slightly better because summer's notoriously slow. Usually, it starts to slow down second part of July. We got through July with great numbers. These were our average monthly numbers, which is really good for summer. Usually, we tend to be below average in a summer month. Then we had a very much above average. I'm sorry, I was talking about June. July was very much above average. In fact, I did the numbers. It was a record July for us. In a market that's recovering from this price correction, we actually had a record July. August was like pulling teeth, but yet we were still, it's not a fair comparison. We were 30% over last August, but last August is when shit hit the fan, really.
Sure.
So, but we still had a relatively strong August, which I was pleasantly surprised with. And if I look at these numbers, our numbers are more or less in line with the numbers that you see on the screen. Now, United States showing a strong recovery. Well, obviously, we're right now, I think economically, we're in a better place than most at the moment.
Yeah,
if you look at the economical landscape. I do like what your source mentioned, and that is, and I'm going to read this back again, unfavorable base effect triggered by revenge buying has seen less summer follow Shanghai's lockdown, which means that they bought so much. When the lockdown was lifted, all of a sudden they're like, oh, they've exhausted themselves financially or maybe with desire.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this evolves and see how these numbers evolve for the end of the year. And I can't wait to see kind of the annual reports and see, let's see what the Swiss watch industry did.
One last thing I'll mention on here, and I'll read it again. Watch experts there say showed a strong recovery after a relatively soft July, as did those to Hong Kong, plus 30%. That 30% to Hong Kong was the Hong Kong dealers waking up after lockdowns and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden saying, okay, China is starting to buy again because most of that stuff comes from Hong Kong. You see an increase, don't be surprised that the next time we put these numbers up, you're going to see a decrease from Hong Kong.
No doubt about it.
It's like they buy a lot,
of course,
and then they hold.
It's cyclical, right?
It's very, very cyclical, but the Asian market tends to overbuy. It's never enough. I remember walking to a dealer's office. He had 48 Pepsi GMTs in stock, along with all the other models. Like I was just like, "You sure you got enough there?" He's like, "Yeah, you never know." Let's move to the next topic, and that is bye box and papers. This is a cool topic. So Panerai is launching digital passports to trace its watches. New service for its customers that it will present at the upcoming Watches and Wonders in Shanghai. It'll officially launch October 3rd together with Ariane, who is that? I don't know what that is. One of the leading digital product passport solutions for brands. Panerai has created a new blockchain-powered digital passport for its watches. I have an issue with that.
Talk to me.
Here's my number one issue. This has been tried many times over. Blockchain, NFT, this, that, and the other. First of all, notice they never said the word NFT in there anywhere, because that's just not a popular topic. They never said the word crypto in there anyway, although it's just exactly the same technology, right? Yeah. So it will contain individuals' information about every watch, creating a digital identity that acts as proof of authenticity granted at the time of purchase. Beyond proof of authenticity, Panerai's owners will benefit from the blockchain's capability to store comprehensive information about a timepiece, including technical details and product history. And down the line, this record will facilitate a more straightforward reselling process and a safer environment in the secondhand market, as the passport is fully transferable for future owner. You cannot be successful with this as a standalone thing.
Why not?
Because you can't. Because you cannot. This is something that eventually will be centralized somewhere.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do, right? So essentially it gets, the whole point of this is mapping out ownership over a blockchain. The watch is sold at an AD, okay, that owner is established on the blockchain as the owner of the watch, right?
I'm going to stop you right there. Okay. Until that owner flips the watch to us,
exactly,
and doesn't want us to register as new owners. I mean, it's lost.
This is Panerai, right? So it's not like AP with their registration process.
I get it, but still the same concept. At some point, somebody somewhere is not going to want to put that information onto the blockchain.
Well, they're not going to have a choice. That's the thing, right? It's like it's transfer of ownership at that point.
Okay, I'm selling you this watch. Okay, great. Here's my blockchain certificate. You can go ahead and grab it and register it in your name. I can transfer it to you. No, I'm good. I don't want my information out there.
I mean, at that point, that's the owner's discretion. That's the owner's discretion.
You know what that equals? A watch with no papers.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't think it's a watch with no papers, because you still have the passport.
They're saying,
but you still have the passport.
No, they're saying doing away with papers altogether. Right, and that's an issue in all of its own, because as a collector and many other collectors out there, remember when Breitling, I think, started first, and maybe IWC later. They wanted to be more eco-conscious, less waste of a material, and they went from like nice big boxes to like the tiny little boxes. Sure. The public didn't take very well to that, because when you're buying such an item, you want to touch and feel all the rest of the nook and crannies.
Yeah, it's about luxury. Like you're buying a luxury product, you want the accessories to feel luxurious, right? And I get that point, but it simplifies, I guess, for Panerai's sake and for the owner's sake, like the ownership of it, right? You can't misplace the box and papers because it's all on a centralized blockchain. That's the idea. I mean, will it work out?
Look, the use of blockchain is something
it's not new. It's certainly not
new.
Yeah,
but listen, this is something that we're going to be rolling out with Digital Watch Vault. Of course, the purpose of Digital Watch Vault is to register any and all watch and to make sure that the watch hasn't been stolen, to keep the same type of history and so on and so forth. Yeah. This is strictly to keep everything to yourself. So now Panerai wants to have control of all those clients and that information. Hey, where's the watch at? Who owns it now? And so on and so forth. I guess time will show.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get one of these new Panerais and see what that looks like as far as on a secondary market. How do we buy this watch? And now, okay, do I get a token? Do I get an NFT? Like,
Yeah,
we'll see.
It'll be interesting.
Let's go to the next topic. And speaking of IWC G-Class Editions. Now, I know that, yes, we're talking about the newly released Panerais, one in a special type of gold and another one in a carbon, right? And these watches are inspired by the Mercedes G-Class. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm going to be biased in this entire topic. These are the two sponsors of my favorite Formula One team, right? Utilitarian legacy, right? And both the car and the watches were initially developed to meet purely functional criteria. One to be easy to read and highly robust, and the other offer uncompromising off-road capabilities, right? So we're going to start with the IW 501-201, which is 18 karat. They called it Armor Gold. And everybody and their mother is going to, 9 out of 10 guys out there say it's the same Big Pilot, they just named the fancy gold, but it's not really true. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, collectors, buyers, some of the newer buyers to the market, they don't tend to look into material use under a microscope. Now, granted, they are jumping on a bandwagon of innovative material use because that's worked for companies like Audemars, who started that whole situation, obviously Richard Mille, along with other brands out there. The Armor Gold is actually something that's utilitarian, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to read this off. Armor Gold is an innovative alloy that elevates the hardness values of gold to a whole new level and makes this comparatively soft precious metal much more resistant to external influences thanks to an improved microstructure. The special alloy is significantly harder and more wear resistant than conventional 5N gold. This is very useful. What happens to a gold watch when you walk into a door handle? Any gold watch.
Nicks.
You get a nick. Not just a scratch, you get a nick, because gold is actually very soft. So I'm going to give a big thumbs up to IWC on this Big Pilot, and then look at the watch, look at this picture. I mean, let's start with the fact that it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the first topic, or the first thing that you said, right? I think one thing that's so undervalued in modern watchmaking just because of serial production is metallurgy and case making, which is, case in point exactly what we're talking about here, right? Like even things like Rolex's 904 L steel versus 316, which they used to use. If we go to like titanium, like the different grades of titanium, which one's more scratch resistant, corrosion resistant, etc. I think that's very neglected by people who collect watches today because it's become so standardized. Yeah, it's become so standardized, and it's like, okay, it's a case of a watch. Who cares? But again, it's going back to that history of watchmaking to create a new alloy. It's very impressive, and not to mention the carbon case. I think is absolutely outstanding.
Well, let's go to the next watch.
Yeah, this one is the showstopper.
The next version of it is the IW 506-201. It's the first IWC timepiece to feature a ceramic matrix composite case, CMC.
Oh, it's ceramic. I thought it was it has carbon look. Yeah,
it's ceramic matrix composite. It's engineered in close collaboration with the German Aerospace Center, DLR. Unlike conventional carbon fiber reinforced polymers, the fibers of this composite material are embedded in a matrix of ceramic rather than polymer. So therefore, CMC components are extremely damage tolerant. Again, going back to the same thing that I said about the previous gold piece, making it more durable, because some of these carbon pieces, some of these ceramic pieces, they do tend to be more fragile. So what they did is they took a hype material that's become, ceramic is starting to become the standard.
Sure.
Right? Carbon is starting to become the standard, and now they made it better. And this is what watchmaking is really about. You take something that's been around for 200 years and you just make it better.
I mean, even take that a step further, right? Like IWC, that's kind of the Big Pilot is a blank canvas for them, right? They made every imaginable edition under the sun, right? So it's like, how do you really innovate or improve on that design? It's one of the few ways that they can, right? I think this is a knockout release. They released even beautiful the AMG with the skeletonized dial.
Yeah.
That was. Dude, they got to do more of those. I think that was one of the nicest watches IWC ever made, period. But this is really impressive. Again, you take that blank canvas of a Big Pilot and you create something that we've never seen before, and I think they really knocked it out of the park.
It's the first time I'm hearing somebody refer to IWC Big Pilot case as the blank canvas, much of the Royal Oak, and I have to agree with you. Let me go back a slide and talk about thermal shocks. Okay, let's talk about you have high requirements when it comes to aerospace, thermal, lightness of the material, the strength, the temperature resistance, right? This is all stuff that was brought from the aerospace engineering, you know. Break this for a sports or luxury car.
Yeah.
They took that technology and they put it into a watch.
Yeah, to put it in layman terms, they overbuilt the watch. You know, there's plenty.
But then they also made it bulletproof.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And, you know, if you take that watch and you walk into a wall or a door handle or drop it, odds are that watch is going to be picked up and it's going to look the same way as the day you bought it. My only concern is, well, with the gold watch, I'm okay with. Gold is easily polished. But what happens if you really bang up that watch?
Well, it's ceramic, right? What happens
Now,
if you crack a ceramic case?
You now at this point have to replace
Yeah.
the entire thing. I'm going to leave you guys with that. That's going to end this week's edition of Watch News Weekly. I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Marco, thank you so much for joining. We'll see you guys in the next one.